Thanks. Thanks all for being here. Well, this is a presentation that I wanted to do. That it was sorry. Oops. Okay. This presentation I wanted to I wanted to talk about this. That was something very recently, and it was a discussion that we had on the OS2 World Forum on how should this work, and boom, suddenly it happens. Okay, so I want to give you a little history of this subject about how it started. On September of 2021, there was a discussion on OS2 World about the feasibility of how to use USB gamepads on ArcaOS, and we were discussing how it should be, what it should support, and we don't have any idea how to build it. And then some other people join and starts to share some scripts and saying, okay, maybe these scripts can interface with the gamepad, maybe some output may show up, and some screenshots, some graphics, and Wimbrul started to do some testing with the reports from the community, and also got some USB gamepads so he can try out and see what output these devices provided on ArcaOS and his testing with USB drivers, right? And on March of this year, Wimbrul released a package of his first USB gamepad drivers, experimental drivers, so we can try out and see what how does it work. Okay. So I don't know if you remember these two guys, GameDD.sys and GameBDD.sys. Okay, these two guys. No, you don't remember. These two guys were the drivers that provided joystick support for OS2. This one for OS2 and this one for the BDM DOS interface. Okay, but these two drivers were only working with the famous GamePort joystick. That GamePort that was on the 80s, early 90s, and then disappeared. Okay, it's very well. There are no machines, no new machines today with this GamePort, the port, yeah. And I was not really expecting this, but Wimbrul updated these two drivers so he can trick the OS2 old games into thinking they are using a GamePort joystick while they are using really a USB gamepad. Okay, so the old games that runs on OS2 and on DOS should think they have like a joystick plug there and work without any without changing anything on the game. The next driver that was produced new by Wimbrul is the driver that allows the USB gamepad to communicate with OS2. That is a gamepad.sys, and this driver is the one that communicates with those other two drivers to send the input and output of the device. I'm not technical enough to explain the internals of these drivers, but that's how I generally see those files. Okay, let's keep going. And on the experiment that we did, basically we grabbed some gamepads and we start to the first part is, okay, let's track the USB information from the gamepad, let's see the hardware ID, the codes, and then with Wim we start to experiment with a script that he has to see the outputs of each buttons, and later Wim will consolidate that output and create some scripts for these devices. Okay, so these devices are basically like I don't know, for example, PC SIGP is this kind of devices made in China, completely made in China. These are not like expensive devices. these two controllers, this one that looks like the Super Nintendo, and this one though for the entertainment Nintendo Entertainment System, they actually use the same chipset inside. So the same PC-SIG-P works for those controllers. Okay, these are all in China. No? They look original, but they are not. Yeah, okay. They look like made. They are not made by Nintendo. They look like, but they are USB. Okay. Then we have a controller that is similar to the PlayStation controller, but it's also USB. And I don't remember which one it used, but it also working. There is also a controller that looks like the Xbox 360 controller, that is a USB, and then you can plug it, and it also worked. And there is this flight scripts. This one are the scripts, okay? This flight script that is for how do you call it? Like a joystick, like this, for more useful for playing like flight simulator games, okay? So these are the ones that we have been sharing on the forum. And this one is an adapter for a PlayStation controller to USB called Husky, okay? That also was analyzed on the process. So what did WinRule did was generate two scripts for each device, okay? This O input script is a Rex script that reads the input of the gamepad. So every button that you press, even the rest state, has a special a unique code that is being sent to the USB. So with O input, you run it first, and you start to grab the input of the button. That is like the first part of the process. So you grab the log, and you say, okay, first I press up, down, left, right, A, B, select, start, on the case of this controller. And we send like the output, the log, to WinRule, and Win them consolidate it and generate this script called xevents.cmd. For the moment, each device has a different script, okay? So with that script, it's like the, how do you explain? It's the script that maps the game map actions against the drivers. So it's like this script is like the stuff that is living and running there that gives that provides life to the device. So this script has to be running always, because it's like the demon that is behind checking what is touched on the gamepad, okay? Oops, okay. So how does it work? Basically, we put on the config sys the drivers. This is the old. I think this is not the right order. I usually put the gamepad that sits first, then the OS2 driver for the old game port joysticks, and then the virtual driver for the OS. Okay, and then we need to use WinRule USB ECD to assign, like, please correct me if I'm wrong, this is like a character device driver, right? Oh, how is it called when you have like
human interface?
How?
Human interface. Right?
Yeah, but you put like $signs and the name $signs, so OS2 can communicate to the driver, or
isn't that the internal name of the driver?
Yeah. I think it's called character device driver.
Yeah.
That is like some way of the driver to show on ring 3, so you can interface with the driver and not going directly to the kernel, right? So you load USB ACD, you put the hardware ID of the device, and you assign it a name, a character device driver. Okay, this name is used by the script, so he can map what is going on with the device. Okay, and version to see the stuff loading. Okay, the /v. And how do we start here? If you want to try something, well, you can get a cheap USB gamepad if you want, or expensive one. I have bought some on AliExpress, eBay, Amazon. It doesn't have to be like, if it's your first try, you don't want to spend a lot of money on a gamepad. You want to see if you really enjoy the OS2 games first, so you can get a cheap USB gamepad. And you can check the OS2 World forums thread, so you can discuss it there and say, okay, here's the output, here's the USB report. And you also, it is good to read a testing guide for game controllers created by Mark Skolnicki, okay? Mark has been from the beginning there on the thread, and he also generated a guide that we're going to show later. That is very good to understand the process. That is, basically, I just make this presentation according to his testing guide. And let's report the good or the bad news on OS2 World, okay? To see if your device works and see what can be done, what need to be hacked on the script to improve it. Let's remember there are different kind of joystick. There are like, well, joystick gamepads. There are joystick that have like a lot of buttons, that have like a little, I don't know that word.
Fire button.
The hat. No, fire button, yes, but they have like a hat there. There is like a game
joystick.
Yeah, like a little joystick on the with the thumb finger. So there are like several combination of things that can show up. That's why the X events CMD script is always different, because you need to map the right button to different kind of controllers. Okay. So that is kind of the research part that you have to do and work with Wim to find out how it will work. Okay, so I want to thank all the sponsors that pay for my trip. Yeah, a lot of people really chip in to using PayPal to help me get here. And for the gamepad drivers, there was interaction from Wim Brule, Matt Slownicki, Dave Yale, Lars Ellman, Jochen Schaffer, and Rich Walsh were all interacting on the forum to see how, giving ideas, and of course Wim Brule was the one that at the end produced the drivers, okay? And let's go to the demo, right? Let's see the gamepad in action. Okay. Give me a second. Yesterday it worked. If today doesn't work, I don't know what happened. So this device that looked like a Nintendo controller is a cheap China reproduction with a USB connector, right? I'm gonna plug it. And this device was called PC6GP because I guess of the chipset. And what I'm going to run first is the O input script. So I guess this is like the resting state of the device. When I press the up arrow, it changed to, well, you can, I don't know if you can appreciate the code, but it changed if I press just up. Okay, left, it changed to a different code, right to a different code. So using a B button, select and start. There are only like 4 buttons and the D-pad, the directional pad. Okay, so this is like the first step when you map the gamepad and say, okay, first I'm going to press A, then B, then up, left, down, and you grab this log and tell it to Wim Brule. It also helps on the forum to have like a picture of the device that you have, so you can map the buttons. And after that, Wim Brule had generated this script called xEvent. Basically, you see almost like the same thing, okay? That map. When you press each button, it will change.
It's decoded.
Yeah, that is decoded, and it's like it now it understands what are you pressing. Like this is up, this is down, okay? And also this is like the daemon that has to be running for the gamepads to be recognized. Okay, so I need to leave this open here. I will try to leave it here so you can see it. And now let's try like a little game. I bring Macman, that is a Pac-Man clone. Let's see if it works. And let's go. Let me see if it works. And you can see down, left, right is working for the gamepad. Okay. I know it is not much, but you should say, "Oh." Okay. Okay. So I'm using a USB gamepad on a game that was not made for USB. This was made for a GamePort joystick from the 80s and 90s, and the driver makes it believe that it's using an old joystick, but it's using a modern gamepad. Okay.
Cool.
So this is like a native OS2 game. Okay.
What's this game called?
Macman. Yeah. This is Macman and has joystick support, right? So got joystick support and it has some options.
Huh.
Then you have like okay, this is native OS2 game. What I want to show you is the DOS stuff. Let me open here a DOS.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah, yeah.
What's going on there is that game was written at some point in the past, right?
Yeah.
And you've provided the inputs it requires in order to work, and it's done with those names that you, like that string that you had? Is that what it's expecting?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Macman used the GameDD.sys driver, okay, and to connect to the game port and get the joystick information.
Mm-hmm.
So Wimbrel hacked this driver. I guess this was part of the DDK. He hacked this driver to also include the USB commands there from the joystick.
Okay.
So. So the game thinks he's still using a GamePort device driver. He's still communicating with GameDD.sys, but GameDD was hacked, was changed to
Was
include.
enhanced.
Was enhanced to include. Well, hacked in the good way, right?
That's accurate. But
Yeah, and Macman is not going to ask your credit card information. Macman is hacked in the good way. Okay. Okay, let's go to the command. So DOS session full screen. Okay, because the window is not working there. Oh, projector is not supporting the. Okay.
Oh, no, it is.
Yeah, it is. Resolution change. Okay. So let me go to where is it? 10. So there was some old utilities to test the joystick on DOS, and we also got it here. First to test something basic like button 1, button 2, and the X axis. Yeah. We have the joystick. Wimbrel did something funny here. He put like a change of axis on the select button just for this model. He was like testing it. So if I press select, it will change the axis to the. For DOS, it will change it like it is joystick A. Okay. Yeah, but he's playing with this configuration. It can be changed into a rect script. So it feels useful. There are games that think that are using joystick A or joystick B. So with select, I can change the axis. It's quite interesting. Yeah. It's not final. This is like I told you, experimental. But we have like some output there, right? And this TM scope, sorry. This is more interesting for a joystick, for something more, more, how do you say, more advanced, yeah, with more buttons. But it also works, right? I can moving the D-pad, I can show you the movement, and button 1 and button 2 is working. I don't have the rest stuff, but there are several things. With more advanced joystick, you can also move this. It's like a wheel that you have on the base of the joystick, and I think this is what is called the hat that is on this. With the thumb finger, you move it. Okay. I don't have one. Well, I have one of those joysticks, but I didn't have the time to test it all. I have like 8 or 10 gamepads and all the consoles and a lot of adapters, and I don't have the time to, because you have to generate a script for each one, and I don't understand Rex, so, and I don't want to say, hey Wim, I have like 20 gamepads and give me the script for everyone. So I need to learn more how he does his reach to generate that Rex script. Okay.
I don't know if it's possible to create some sort of UI, because most of these games have got standard things like left, right, up, down, fire, A, B. So I don't know if some kind of UI could be created that listens to the USB port, that you select on the screen the up arrow, and then you can press the up arrow so that it can auto teach itself.
Yeah, it can be like, well,
it's gonna take work, but I don't think that it's that far off to create it. It's not from here obviously easy. Yes.
Yeah.
And you could actually also make a database with a pull-down menu that you select. I've got this thing, you know, selected, and that rec script. I think if you talk to anybody here with a bit of C experience, you might actually be able to turn that script into a genuine daemon that can be run as a run statement with the pipe accepts that input, so that you could select from a simple VxRex program, I want to have this gamepad, and then that pushes that into the daemon. And it's, of course, it's all going to take work to write it, but I think 90% of the code is there.
Yeah, that's right. Wimbrel is a very experienced driver developer, and he likes the USB stuff, but I haven't seen like Wimbrel is not more. It's not like a PM, presentation manager developer.
No,
So, but he already provided the driver. That is the important thing, the driver, and a Rex interface, so you can see how it works. So yeah, someone with more experience in presentation manager can create like an interface, so you can have like the different configuration gamepad and say, okay, let's activate this one, and a daemon that runs that should be like the desired future for this little project. Okay, but it's working. It's like finally we have something from a USB gamepad. Okay, and let me exit this and let me try like and we have Wolfenstein 3D, and the joystick turns on, and well, I can press a key. No. Okay, and I can select new game. Oh no, sorry, I pressed the wrong button here. B button. Okay, I can select the first one. And well, this game, do you know this game? Wolfenstein 3D? Yeah, it's a classic.
Of course.
Yeah. We all learned to kill Nazis with this game. Okay?
I played it once, had nightmares of dragging.
Okay?
I think you had nightmares.
Yes, so Wolfenstein 3D is like, well, it's the first, one of the first 3D games, first-person shooter. First-person shooter game created by ID Software.
Before Doom or after?
Before Doom.
Before Doom.
Yeah, this was before Doom. And, well, in fact, there's a funny story. It's not really 3D.
Yeah.
It's not like you're shooting up or down.
Right.
Everything is the same, at the same level. That was the trick here. But it's a DOS game that is expecting an old joystick connected to the old game port, but is using now a USB gamepad. Okay. and it works very fine. And well, like Dorothy said yesterday, it will be very nice to have sound on the
Yeah.
on the DOS.
Basically, what this is doing here with that VDD, that is exactly what the Sound Blaster driver does.
Yeah.
Because that VDD in the DOS session captures the port where I think the hex port for a joystick port is 380, and the VDD is basically the fake port that you normally had on the sound card.
Yeah.
And that's what the Sound Blaster drive would have to do. It captures the call from the game, and that's how it communicates back and forth.
Yeah.
But
The-
you need to write that code. That's
Yeah. No, and that's not easy. It's not easy to do that. But this does exactly the same. It goes to the BDD driver for the Gamepad BDD driver that goes to the OS2 game driver. Okay, and that goes to the Gamepad driver that Wimble created to grab USB commands. Okay.
Cool.
So it works. It is not like the best or the final how do you say implementation of the solution because it's all rec script, but it shows like as a proof of concept that it works. Okay.
Has it been tested under a USB 3 connection with our stack?
It can be tested with
Yes.
the stack.
Right now.
Right now, it's
Oh.
running USB 3?
Yeah, that's
The
a
ArcaOS?
450. It doesn't have a USB.
Excellent, excellent.
I can test it right now. No, my home computer doesn't have USB 3, the old ThinkPad that I use for gaming machine, but it worked here.
Excellent.
But in the old computer, I use the USB ArcaOS USB stack. Okay.
There is a gizmo, the name of which escapes me now, but I have one for testing purposes, that accepts an analog joystick on one end, and it's USB out the other side.
Okay.
So, because as you said before, no new machines come with game ports anymore.
Yeah.
But if you have a really nice analog joystick, and I picked up a couple for testing purposes, this allows you to use that analog joystick. The one thing you find with some of the older analog joysticks, they're heavy. So you plant it on the desk, it
Yeah.
stays there.
Yeah.
It's not chintzy like some of the new ones, they're just like hollow plastic in the bottom.
Right.
The one that I have, and I can't remember which one it is now, but it was a pretty popular stick at the time. I happened to get it on eBay in the original box. It's beautiful. But this little gizmo allows you to run it on USB, but we've been lacking a driver up until
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
This is good to know.
Mark,
The real reason
I've been
for
waiting
USB 3, right?
No, the real reason I came to Warpstock this year. I mean, seriously.
Mark was testing these USB devices that that you connect to the USB and has a game port, so you can connect the old.
That's the thing. Yeah.
And I didn't follow too much. I have some issues on that month, but I think he managed with Wim to make it work with his joystick. We don't.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. We need to check it out and
Sure.
do more testing. There is another test that also works, but works on my machine. I tried to do it here, but I don't know. I think I'm missing some library, something like that. But SDL Games works. DOSBox works. I can run also Wolfenstein 3D with sound on DOSBox and with USB gamepad support. That's what Jochen has done.
Burger Time, does that work? Burger Time, Donkey Kong?
Yeah. If they have like old DOS joystick support, they should work with that.
Those are SDL games ported to OS2 native.
Native OS too?
Yeah.
If they have the game DD sys,
Game DD and Gamepad sys
yeah.
should make that work.
yeah, that should work.
Okay.
We can give it a try to see
Yeah.
if something not compatible, but
Do you know if this works with joysticks that are connected using a game port to USB adapter?
that's what Mark was trying on the forum. I'm not sure about it. I didn't follow quite that.
You mean
but
go in the
I-
other direction?
Yeah,
So
well,
it's-
I have a game a game port USB
Yeah.
a game port joystick, which
Right,
if I
that's
wanted
what
to
I was
use
just
it, I'd
talking
have to
about.
get an adapter to plug
Right,
it
and
in.
I have one of those adapters we were just talking about. You say Mark
Yeah.
has tested that?
Yeah, Mark has tested some. I think he made it work, but I'm not completely sure. I didn't follow. Maybe some of the list is supported for that.
It would depend on how old the game port joystick is, because the newer ones that worked in Windows and had Windows drivers stuff, they used the MIDI protocol to actually use all those buttons. That's why there were more than 4 buttons.
Oh, wow.
So you have to have separate drivers for each one of those devices.
They actually use the MIDI protocol.
Really? Yeah,
I
It's-
always wondered.
that's how you can get like 6 and 8 and 10 buttons on something.
Sure,
in
it's
98.
For the record, it's a Flight Stick Pro, best joystick ever made.
Which one?
Yeah,
Which
nice
one?
joystick.
Flight Stick Pro.
Fire Stick Pro. No?
It's been around since the mid-90s.
Yeah.
It
I
might
maybe.
be, from what I hear here, because I'm not experienced with the game ports at all,
But it did work under DOS.
an adapter, you might have to have a separate script for each joystick that you plugged into that adapter. It's specific to the joystick, not to the adapter.
Well, if it's using standard, if it's an old game port joystick that worked in DOS without Windows, just native DOS without using a separate driver, then it's just a standard game port controller that would be 4-button, 2-axis,
Yeah.
and you would just program the support for the actual adapter. The joystick won't matter.
Yeah, cool. I haven't played X-Wing in a while, this thing.
Yeah. So yeah, well, yeah, and the last thing I was saying, it works on SDL games. We had tried like Rocks and Diamonds, trying to move the little man there, and it worked. There was some shifting that it goes up. We don't know still why, but it worked for SDL games, and DOSBox also works with this. So I had tried Wolfenstein. This is the same game, Wolfenstein 3D on DOSBox. It sounds and it also works with the game, the USB gamepad. So it's quite very interesting. So for retro gaming, and to have like now an option to use the gamepad. Okay.
Between this and poker, we're good here.
Yeah.
Exactly, we're all set. What else does one need?
Revival.
Can I raise a suggestion?
Yeah.
As I said before, I love this. There is a small footnote. Could somebody test this with a DOS game? One of those old DOS games with a DOS Protect mode, that 4D jump tube thing that says DOS Protect mode game.
4GL?
Yeah, there are a couple of these DOS games
What's
that
the
are
trick to
really.
move the window?
Martin, Martin, there are a couple of DOS games that I explained yesterday that
Yeah.
have a really heavy burden on the CPU. I think there is the possibility that with this concept where it switches
Yeah.
between ring 3 and back,
It
that
can-
can cause latency. We tested yesterday Wolfenstein 3D, right?
What?
That was
Wolfenstein. Yeah, the one that we see.
That worked, that was a
Yeah.
lightweight game. But what I'm concerned about is when the CPU load with a very graphical intensive game gets pushed up, the
Yeah.
CPU might drown, and I wonder how this will stick. Because I don't know if somebody could test that, how well that works.
Let's give it a try. Let's say, okay, I have this game that has joystick support, and it has to be like heavy, intense.
From
So,
Abandonware, that's
yeah.
for example.
Yeah, but-
game
but,
called Wacky
yeah.
Wheels.
Wacky wheels.
Yes,
You say that is intense for DOS. Okay, let's give it a try.
It runs a lot harder than Larry in Leisureland.
Okay, okay. Well, let's see. Let's find it. What was the trick to move the window? Alt.
Yeah.
This-
To move the window,
Alt
when-
F7.
Alt F7?
Alt.
Yep.
Or what was that?
Then you-
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that was the trick. Yeah, I always forget about it.
Oh, yeah.
Or you can just tile it from the window list.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can time it.
This is the guy that wrote Mark Skolnicki. Okay, I tried to pronounce his last name right, but I'm not sure. This is the guy that produced and is on the OS2 World Forum on how to test and how to set up the USB gamepads. Okay, it's on version 1.2. It's created on June of this year, and he will tell you here what's the stuff that you need, how to install the drivers, then you need to put the hardware ID, the name, and on USB ECD, what to put on the configs is. He put it on the very nice guy that he gives
He
us
has a lot
there.
of time. He
Okay.
lives in the colder part of
Yeah.
Canada.
Boom. Marker.
Yeah.
Okay. And there is some test equipment. He has tested the Thirst Master, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I personally had tested the Husky and this one that is the NES. That has the same chipset that this one that is NES, the NES controller. Okay. So we want to collaborate more and improve this database of tested devices when time allows. Okay. Let me see if there's something in. Oh, he has some appendix with some comments, like on. He also tested with me Macman, and also tests Wolfenstein 3D. I haven't tested Comanche. He's like, but he also has tested the Comanche game that is more. I think it's an helicopter game, Comanche. So with the joystick, it's like nice, right? Okay. He also tests Mech Warriors that are like big robots fighting each other. Star Wars Dark Forces, very good game. It is very similar to Wolfenstein 3D and Ultimate Doom. Okay, so there are some tips that Mark gives on his guide, and I recommend to check it out also if you get a USB gamepad.
I think you say Shkolnitsky.
What?
Shkolnitsky.
Shkolninsky.
As SE is an SH.
Yeah, Shkolninsky. Okay, that's good. That's any other question? But this is very nice to test out and play a little games. This can be very fun. So
You couldn't get SDL to just run SDL game to just run on the machine. I know there's different SDL libraries.
yeah, I tried to get the libraries.
Okay.
The game run, but something is missing. I don't know if leave USB or
Okay.
something that is missing also in the documentation, exactly which version should I use. But yeah, my machine works.
I'm
The
held
excuse
up.
is in my machine works.
Yeah. I'm held up by games because I
Yeah.
don't understand how to get SDL.
No, I had to install all the
Exactly.
SDL in your
Yeah, there's
machine.
different versions
and-
of SDL, and I don't understand.
Yeah.
Is the source available?
The source code of the GameDD and GameVDD, since it's based on the DDK license, I get it cannot be shared publicly. We need to work that out with Wim. And the gamepad, the other game, something that says that is Wim Rule original driver, is not yet, the source code is not available. Maybe I will have to talk about it. Wim Rule usually publish his source code.
Yeah.
He likes to publish it, but maybe this project is not yet on his webpage, as far as I know. And maybe he wants to experiment more with it and have more time, and he will like release something.
What makes that code in the device driver kit proprietary that you can't?
That's the license.
It's IBM's license.
Yeah, IBM license says you can create a driver, you can sell it, you can give it for free, but you cannot share the source code. That's what it says. Okay? Yeah.
When I did the updated PostScript driver, I got around that by saying you need this version of the DDK, and then I published all the diffs from my source code.
Yeah.
So that anybody who has the DDK could recreate.
Yeah. That's a legal way to
Yeah.
comply with it. Another way is like having an organization where you submit that source code, and the source code is still a closed source, right?
The other way is if you know someone who has a DDK license and is not going to use it anymore. ArcaOS has an agreement with IBM that you can trade that license into us, and we can trade it to you, someone else. You can't buy new DDK licenses, and you can't sell a DDK license to someone else. But you can transfer it to us, and we can transfer it to you to work under our umbrella.
Was that a separately purchased thing, the DDK?
It came with the developer connection, a developer
okay.
connection
So if you
subscription.
have
But-
legal
but-
developer
Those are-
connection,
If
you
you
are.
had a developer connection subscription, then you have a DDK license.
I had those for years.
Correct.
It's also available
yes,
through Passport
yes, but
Advantage.
on the last
Yeah.
days, IBM used to put the DDK online, if I don't recall it right.
Right, as part of software choice, wasn't it?
No, I think it was like you enter and say I agree. I never had like.
They put it on test case once or twice.
Yeah.
Yes, the last procedure that you could get at IBM to get a quote-unquote DDK license was by opening a book at IBM's
Yeah.
CMR request, and that ticket would then give you a DDK
Yeah.
download. It's a pretty weird instruction.
Yeah, it was.
So if you have the developer's connection, you're entitled to
You can produce your code.
have like a stack of
Yeah.
them.
Right, but again, you can't make your source code public
Me-
that includes any of the DDK
Yeah.
content.
Maybe I should try again to request permission to republish all the part number of the DDK. Because I asked permission for the documentation and IBM gave it to me.
Uh-huh.
So the DDK documentation is now on the EDM2, but maybe I should try to.
They're still planning to make a killing on the DDK.
What?
Yeah.
Still planning to make a killing.
Gosh, we got donated so many things from people who had that, but I guess the license remains with that person, even if they donated all their.
Exactly,
Yeah.
all the meaning, because the license is not transferable. So
Yeah,
you can
exactly.
take a full set of DevCon CDs
Yeah,
and donate it to Warpstock.
yeah.
You still
Yeah.
hold the license.
So I have a list of people who did those donations. I could contact them and say,
And
give them to
say,
you and.
yeah, they
you
can,
could
they
have a
can
stack
trade their
of-
licenses
you could
to
have a
us,
stack of
and
those licenses?
we can
Okay.
transfer those licenses to someone else,
That's where
who
things.
is then ostensibly working under ArcaOS.
Yeah,
I mean, we had my company had a subscription to that for years. When I left the company, I just took all the CDs because nobody cared about it. And but they would still have the license, the company.
they would.
The company would have the license because the company had the subscription.
Wow.
Well, what might work, was there ever a proof of entitlement printed by the DDK on a piece of paper? Because you only had the license
Was there?
agreement.
What?
Mark is the expert on
Yes.
stuff like
Was there
this.
ever
Yes.
a DDK released?
Yes.
Remember when you open up your Warp4 box, it had this proof of entitlement. Was
Yeah.
that ever done for the developer toolkit?
Yes.
Because if you have that sheet of paper, that, as far as I know, was transferable. But best I know was that the DDK was always, as you said correctly, was a license that was tied to, for example, your developer connection. That's always the slippery
Yeah,
banana.
but the DDK for drivers, I don't remember that it came on Warp 4. It was like a separate thing on the developer
Right,
connection.
right.
Yeah, no, the other, what is the other DDK? The one for PM applications.
The OS2 toolkit.
Toolkit.
The
Yeah,
toolkit,
toolkit.
yeah, the toolkit came in Warp 4, yeah.
Yeah.
But the
Right.
DDK was like
That
separate.
strangely enough can be distributed, it seems,
Yeah.
more or less without
Mhm.
it. That's
Yeah, but-
part.
Yeah.
But as far as I remember, it was on the
But, yeah,
website
When you got
on the
developer
last days.
connection, you got the paperwork, it had that, yeah.
Mike Capper.
Had the license.
Well,
Okay.
Mike Capri is a possibility, but I
No,
wanted.
he gave me.
Oh, he
your-
gave you
Yeah.
his?
Well, he gave, he was still, yeah.
Oh, I
So
see.
I jumped right
Yeah,
in
yeah,
there, too.
yeah.
Yeah, the issue with DDK, there is Microsoft source code somewhere there.
Don't
It
they
may
give you
be
the
there, it
compiler?
may not be there.
Microsoft compiler?
Oh, the Microsoft.
The
yeah.
6.0 compiler comes with it, doesn't it?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes,
C6.
yes.
Okay, but we're talking about the sample source code.
Right, no, I understand.
There is some Microsoft headers still there.
No, but the
Yeah.
compiler came with the DDK.
Yeah. But the issue is that, okay, maybe we don't use the compiler, but the issue is that the license says you cannot share the source code
Yeah.
of the samples.
When you got
But
the.
you have a-
The toolkit from IBM, it
Yeah.
had that page.
Yeah, it divided like, you have the tools, the documentation, and the samples in the license.
And you
And-
also
yeah.
can't take IBM's headers, hack out the IBM copyright and say, yes, it's open source now. That doesn't work.
It's not compatible with open source, that is the final
Yeah.
edit.
In Russia.
It does if you're in Russia, exactly.
Works.
That's proof enough for me.
Now you're joking about it, but we've seen it happening without mentioning names.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Some of the header files looked very suspiciously the same, but they now had a
Thank you.
GPL header stick to it.
Or no head.
Close this.
Yeah, as well.
And you just inline them?
Okay, so that's all.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.